First soup of the season.
Can you stop doing that?
Doing what?
Recording yourself after everything that you do.
We all are ready to accept this, but not dating somebody just because they support Donald Trump is not a good reason not to date them. People hear that and they think, but Joe, I want to end up with someone who shares my values. But we all have to remember that values are not philosophical aphorisms that we espouse. Values are how we walk and breathe and navigate our lives. And if you're the type of person that's going to end something with somebody just because they support the candidate that the other half of the country is supporting, what you're essentially saying that your values are is that you are really ideologically rigid, you're incredibly self-righteous in your morals, and you cannot accept influence from somebody who's different from you.
Really done with dating because you men are just absolutely atrocious. So here's some things I did today without thinking about men. I went to go see my friend. She was in a play. And now I just made this delicious salad and I'm going over to my girlfriend's for a girls' night. And here's another thing I'm not doing, reading the comments of my video because they're atrocious. Toodles.
So it seems like women are just about done dating men. And honestly, that's probably something you already knew, especially if you've been on TikTok or Twitter lately. You've probably seen it all over the place. It's a pretty common sentiment. And honestly, I can't say I'm all that surprised. I mean, there's a long list of reasons why some people might feel this way. I mean, I'll just name a few, like men believing that for some reason that we have control over women's bodies, right? When it comes to like things like abortion laws, all types of bodily autonomy. Obviously, that's a load of hot bullshit, but there's a lot of men that think it's not. They think that it's, for some reason, their God-given right to control women's bodies.
How many tampons on average does a woman use over the course of one period?
3.
Yes!
Woo! Is that right? No clue. No clue. No, not even a guess. No clue. 4.
4?
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
How do you know that?
Well, because we do pro-life work.
Right.
Yeah.
What is a uterine firewall?
That's where the baby implants.
Probably know more about my body than I know about mine.
Well, it's in.
And I think that's totally valid if you don't want to engage with that type of nonsense. And it's extends far beyond politics, even though that sort of thing should even be political. But hey, who's making it political, right? But there's other things, like the dating culture right now has changed so much. And it feels like it's more difficult than ever to actually find a meaningful, worthwhile connection. And that sentiment honestly goes both ways. That's why on YouTube, for instance, you'll see a lot of videos talking about the struggles men face in the dating culture sphere right now. One of my favorite trends is women who are done dating Trump supporters. That one always gives me a hearty laugh, and trust me, we're going to talk a little bit about that later on in this video.
Just can't date a dude with a vag.
But another thing that I've noticed is just some women especially feel like, I mean, this is a sentiment as old as time itself, not being treated very well in relationships, right? And we're gonna look at some examples of that too, obviously. But first off, I want to just jump into the receipts so you can hear it from somebody that's not me.
I'm so fucking tired of being disappointed by men. I'm so fucking tired of getting hurt. I'm so fucking tired of men lying and then calling it honesty. I'm so tired of men pretending like they want to be in a relationship with you and literally pretend and act like they are in a relationship with you just for them to turn around weeks later and say they don't want a relationship with you. So what the fuck were you doing the entire time? Were we playing pretend? How old are we? I thought we stopped playing pretend when we turned like 9. Why are we still doing it? Why are you a little boy in a man's body? Why have you not matured yet? Why do I have to be disappointed and feel like a fool every fucking time? I'm so tired, because from what I've also learned about guys is that they know right away. They know pretty early on if they see it with you or they don't, and they're not going to waste their fucking time if they don't see it, right? And I'm not talking about like just keeping you around, kind of breadcrumbing you just to like be able to get into your pants so that, you know, you go out on a night out so that they can text you at 2 a.m. and you come over. I'm just saying, like, I've gone through enough, I've been through enough that like I know the difference. I can usually spot the difference. I'm talking about guys that are coming over, cooking me dinner, hanging out multiple times a week, going on dates, paying for things. I'm meeting their friends, they're meeting my friends. Like, very much
So let me just say, because there's a corner of YouTube and what all types of platforms, social media platforms, where there are these alpha male guru types, right? These, the fit X fearless types who give men the absolute worst dating advice you could imagine. And I know if y'all went and watched this stuff, you would laugh and be like, wow, they really believe this stuff? The answer is yes, actually. There's actually been this culture created by creators like Fit X Fearless and many more just like him that teach young men, especially Gen Zers, those who are honestly the focus of this frustration a lot of the time nowadays, that dating is a whole game, right? It's a game, right? You want to play it a certain way. I'm pretty confident that Fit and Fearless once said that you have to date a girl for like 2 years or something before you can even say she's your girlfriend.
So number one, I always tell guys, right? I say before she even becomes your girlfriend, you got to date her for 2 years. And then guys call me crazy.
I think
this kind of stuff.
that's sensible.
Yeah.
Now, I know you might not know who either of these clowns are, but on the left you have Fit X Fearless, one of the alpha male looks maxing gurus who gives the best dating advice in the world, obviously. And on the right you had Vegan Gains, who says, oh yeah, that makes sense, right? You got to date for 2 years before you can even say she's your girlfriend, right? And the guy says that some people think he's crazy, right? That he says these sort of things, but this is what he teaches people. It's not the people who watch him and listen to him that think he's crazy. It's more sensible people. The problem is you get a lot of young men who don't know much better, and then they go to these alpha male gurus and they learn the dumbest dating advice of all time, and they think that shit is the way to do things, to play games and act like an idiot. They think that's how you secure a healthy long-term relationship. I know, it's just as ridiculous and stupid as it sounds. Believe me, I understand. And I'm not saying with the great certainty that whoever, she's been dating around with are people who get this type of influence, but it's possible. To me, it sounds like one of those types of scenarios where they're like, oh yeah, I'm dating you for a long time, but I'm not committing. I'm refusing to commit. And then they eventually just say, you know what? I'm done. Goodbye. See you later. Right? That's what she's experiencing. That's something that she's frustrated with. It's like being led on for such a long time and thinking that, this person's really committed to me. And then out of nowhere, they're like, yeah, nah, sorry, your trial ran out. Trial period's over, sister. Good luck. Go find another one. And I can imagine that being pretty gosh darn frustrating. And I think that's a great reason to be like, yeah, I'm done with this. I'm done playing these dumb games. I know a lot of men have stated that women are the ones that just love to play games. And it's like many have adopted this mentality that if you don't play games, then you're the one losing, right? So now you have to be playing the games. They can't beat you at your own game, right? You got to beat them at your game, which is extremely toxic and childish. But it's how a lot of these men think nowadays, which I think is what leads to this type of reaction from women just like her that we just saw. Now, something else that a lot of men are guilty of is sucking the joy right out of their partner's eyes sometimes when they're enjoying something that maybe to you don't see the value in it, because that's possible, right? That your partner might enjoy doing something and you might not fully understand like why it makes them happy, or you might not care that it makes them happy, and that's not a good thing. It's a terrible thing, but it's something that happens, right? And then what ends up happening is that she doesn't get to enjoy those things anymore because you make it unfun for her. And we're about to witness one of the most pure examples of that I've ever seen.
First soup of the season.
Can you stop doing that?
Doing what?
Recording yourself after everything that you do.
But I don't do everything. It's just the soup that I made. It's the first one.
You don't need to record just because you made a soup.
You don't like your soup?
Well, it's the only thing that you made. Of course I'm gonna eat it.
The silence was loud with this one, and the soup slurp was even louder, but it just shows you like how awkward and uncomfortable this is, right? It's like her joy here all right, of making her first soup of the season, like, how does that affect you in any way, shape, or form? Like, right? Like, let her be happy. Obviously, like, that, it's like a no-brainer. Let her enjoy her fucking soup and making a video while she does it. Like, it doesn't hurt you. All it does is benefit her. Like, there's literally no negative for you. Like, if you're annoyed by this, and it's like, why are you dating her? Clearly, like, obviously her energy wasn't meant for you. Or either that, or you're just like this void of negative energy that just sucks the life out of everything, or out of her specifically. Now, I saw some comments on this, which I'm going to show you, of people sharing their own thoughts and theories about this I think are very valuable. So the first comment says, this type of emotional abuse called countering. They try to combat anything that brings you joy or happiness that isn't from them. We got someone throwing tomatoes saying this is for your ex. And this one responds here saying, I just recently learned the term countering. I used to call it knocking the wind out of my sails. He's so fucking mean. What? He ruined your joy. Glad he's an ex now. Right, and those are totally valid responses, obviously, because why would you ever do this? You know, and it's, I will say that obviously, you know, not everyone does this, but there's a good amount that do. That's why there's a term for it, right? They didn't just make that shit up, you know? That term exists for a reason because enough people have done it to a point where it had to have a name. And that is really concerning, you know, and sometimes you don't know that, you know, your partner might start doing this to you because it might take time to settle in. You know, you might think that they treat you super nicely, they come off as a very great, kind person, and then, you know, months or even years into the relationship, now suddenly everything you do pisses them off, right? Every time you smile, they find a way to turn into a frown, to make you sad. And this is a type of emotional abuse that has been weaponized a lot, especially by men. And I'm sure many of you watching this can probably relate, probably have experienced something like this before. Now, you probably remember seeing this video clip in the opening, so I'm not going to play it again, but I also wanted to look at the comments here because they basically paint the entire picture of this, the purpose of this whole video. So remember that she called dating men atrocious. So you've got comments like this saying, we don't need them, 5 years single / celibate, best gift I've ever given myself. Atrocious is correct. Done here as well. Decentering men is the greatest gift women can give themselves. I salute. I am so happy to be a 56-year-old retired widow who has no desire to date anymore, owns her home, fat bank account, and no kids. 4 years single and celibate. So peaceful. I do not want a man. I'm tired of taking care of them. So yeah, if it wasn't obvious already, we've got a problem. We've got a problem. And I will say that these sentiments are totally valid in many cases. And we've already seen a couple examples of why. And I think the way like our culture, especially in dating, has shifted over the years, it's gone down a very negative slope. Now, obviously, people have access to more options. They don't feel as pressured, I guess, to make things work with a smaller pool of people or anything like that, because they're like, oh, well, if it doesn't work with this person, I'll just go back on Tinder or Bumble and find somebody else kind of deal. And so, like, I think that is a problem in and of itself, but also what I've shown previously before with like these male dating coaches especially, or just people who perpetuate this culture as well.
I'm gonna show you 10 different lines you can use right now to approach women, see if you can spot why they work. But either way, don't worry, I'm gonna explain each one of these and how to properly use them. So let's get into point number 1, which is gonna be the time constraint. Now, this is best used at the beginning of your opening line. You're gonna say something along the lines of, hey, excuse me, I actually have to get going, or I was actually headed that way, or I'm actually about to meet up with some friends, but I just wanted to say really quickly, and then you can say your opening line.
That type of influence has spread like wildfire, especially through Gen Z and some slightly older generations too, but especially Gen Z. And a lot of it is contributing to this toxic masculinity that is being quietly described here. And here's a seriously on the nose example of that.
You can never expect women to make logical sense. You cannot expect decency from women. They're going to be illogical, they're going to be irrational, they're going to throw tantrums, they're emotional. Would you get mad at a kid for drawing on a kitchen counter? Of course not. It doesn't know any better. It's the same thing with women. They have tantrums, they get emotional, they can't see properly, and they just make autopilot decisions, and you can't care. You cannot react. When you do, you lose the game. If you want to master dating, click the link in bio. You can never...
Yeah, when you got young men looking up to people like this, and this guy is a small fry in comparison to some of these bigger assholes out there. You got like people like Wes Watson and King Azulai and Andrew Tate and his brother, and all these misogynistic pieces of shit out there who teach young men that disrespecting women and treating them like children is cool. That's just what you do with women. And you literally create this childish mentality. And that, coupled with so many other things like the upbringing, right? Being taught at a young age that men are more valuable than women in certain aspects, right? Because, you know, you're supposed to make the money and take care of the family. Your wife is just supposed to cook and clean the house, and that's all she does. You know, you get raised with those types of ideas. And yeah, you're going to sprout out some absolutely disconnected, naive young men who listen to all types of different nonsense, and then they act on it, and they create these toxic scenarios that women just don't want to be a part of anymore. And so when women take to TikTok and X and all these places say, hey, we're sick of it, we're done with it, we don't want this anymore, I get it. It makes sense. Can't argue that. And it's obvious that those feelings are completely valid. Now, I've already mentioned previously that one of the biggest reasons that a lot of women aren't dating men is because they don't want to deal with a Trump supporter, for instance, which well over 50% of men voted for Trump in the 2024 elections. So that already shrinks the pool in half, to put it simply. But it's not just because they voted for him, obviously. It's because of shit like this that you're about to see.
I married a Trump supporter, and this is how it went. Before I go into this story, I want to preface by saying that I believe there is a difference between a Trump supporter and a Republican. He would constantly say things like, build the wall. Even after I told him how hurtful and disrespectful hearing that was, because I came from a family of immigrants. Because of this experience that I had with my ex, being a Trump supporter is a deal breaker for me. The main reasons for this is because anytime me and my ex argued, he was always threatening to call ICE on my family. And the relationship was very abusive, but I stayed because of these threats. I felt guilty a lot of the times for putting my family at risk. He consistently used me as an example as to why he's not racist because he married a Mexican. He basically treated me as an exception. One time we were at his family's house, and his Trump supporting family cornered me and harassed me about my political views. And I actually mean I was in a corner like this, and I had like 3 females in front of me arguing with me. He watched this happen and didn't do anything about it. And it was not one of those healthy political discussions. They were literally hounding me. Just because he married me does not mean he respected me. I come from a town that I would say is predominantly conservative. Back then, I wasn't as outspoken as I am now because I was still in the town at the time, and I did have a fear of speaking out because of how aggressive they were.
So yeah, in case you didn't quite hear her, she said that her husband was threatening to call ICE on her family when she disagreed with him. Wow. You have to hear that. You have to hear it to believe it, right? You got to hear it to believe it, because I honestly, it shook me to the core. But it highlights a much bigger issue, right? There's this goofball who you probably saw at the very beginning of this video saying that, oh, if you don't want to date somebody who's a Trump supporter, then it's like you don't want to date a real person, you want to date a fantasy. It's like, I don't know how you get to that point of being delusional, right? To honestly believe that when reality, you know, these certain types of actions, political or not, they show something about someone's morality, about their ethics, about their values. And that's where you really encounter a problem. Clearly, this person didn't like Hispanic people. There are often exceptions, like she said, where they're like, oh, you're one of the good ones, sort of thing. And there's possible that there's some sort of infatuation there, but obviously at the end of the day, at the core of this, the guy's just an asshole and he sucks in every way you can imagine. But much further than just like, oh, he voted for Trump, so I'm not interested in him. It's what that stands for. It's what that means. It's, they want you to have your body controlled by politics, right? You don't get access to bodily autonomy. There are people in the political circle right now who are part of this who want women to have their right to vote repealed because, like that previous guy was saying, women are basically children. They can't make logical decisions, so therefore they shouldn't be able to vote because they always vote wrong, according to them, which is just absolutely abhorrent. But it's the reality. And so when you support people who don't think women are equivalent to men, then you're basically saying that that's how you feel as well, which is why a lot of women nowadays are saying, yeah, I would not date someone who voted for Trump.
We all are ready to accept this, but not dating somebody just because they support Donald Trump is not a good reason not to date them. People hear that and they think, but Joe, I want to end up with someone who shares my values. But we all have to remember that values are not philosophical aphorisms that we espouse. Values are how we walk and breathe and navigate our lives. And if you're the type of person that's going to end something with somebody just because they support the candidate that the other half of the country is supporting, what you're essentially saying that your values are is that you are really ideologically rigid, you're incredibly self-righteous in your morals, and you cannot accept influence from somebody who's different from you. I think that people who are like that don't actually want a partner. What they want is a fantasy. What they want is someone who's going to validate every feeling and belief that they have. That's not what I want. I want something real.
So first of all, I hope this guy's in a real therapist, and if he is, it's concerning because it seems like he uses therapy as a way to rage bait. Yes, your politics are 100% based on your morals and values. I'm not sure what else this person thinks they're based off of. I feel like he's just saying words in a certain way to make it sound like that's not the case. First, he says that morals and values aren't philosophical aphorisms. Which philosophical aphorisms are short sayings that concisely express a moral principle. So I'm just not sure why he said that. He said morals and values are how we navigate life. Yes, we navigate life based off of our morals and values. We're going to act certain ways based off of our morals and values. I just don't understand why he was trying to muddy the water when it came to that kind of language he's using. Yes, we do base our politics off of our morals and values. I'm not sure how you could think otherwise.
I mean, did she have to cook him that hard? I mean, well, honestly, yeah. He deserved it, because that was some of the most nonsensical drivel I've ever heard in my life. I don't know how he made up this garbage. Like, how can you not make a direct connection between these things of morals, values, and who you vote for? Right? Because politics have gotten so philosophical and even religious, right? So, like, obviously, when you overturn Roe v. Wade, you're taking away women's bodily autonomy, right? You're saying that you don't want women to have full control over their bodies and what's in it, right? That's what you're saying. So yeah, and if that doesn't align with you, then it's a problem. Obviously, you would want to be with someone who wants you to have full bodily autonomy, don't you? And there's something else that I really wanted to talk about that is also relevant to this, and it's like rape culture. You know, I mentioned it earlier, but the truth is, like, there are so many men who don't take that shit seriously, sexual assault, rape, or anything. And honestly, these very same people that she's talking about are many of those people among them, because they put somebody in office who has stated publicly many times that he sexually assaults women and doesn't bat an eye. They support somebody who has done that. And obviously we've got alleged claims about him doing all sorts of terrible things with women and children too. And yet, you know, if your morals and values still allow you to vote and support someone like that, then yeah, you're probably going to have a value mismatch with a woman who wants nothing to do with that. And saying that they don't want a real relationship, they want a fantasy, is ridiculous cope, because it shouldn't be a fantasy to have someone with aligned values. And it's not like you're asking for a yes man. You want someone to agree with you on values, but doesn't mean on everything, like their favorite food, or not even necessarily like their perfect idea of a Saturday night. They could be different. Doesn't mean you can't both share those ideas and do compromises or certain things along that. Like, that's what he's trying to get at with this, and it's so unbelievably misplaced and disingenuous, but here we are. And you, like, the fact that this guy is such an apologist for this way of thinking, just add that to the list of reasons why women are just about fucking tired of dating men. And obviously, no Curlington Stories video would be complete without our girl Sarah Clate, who does the absolute best skits for literally everything I talk about on this channel. So here you go, enjoy.
Bro, you would literally make the perfect wife. Like, you're so beautiful, you're smart, you're funny. I love sleeping next to you every single night. If I could spend every second of the day with you, I totally would. I think I love you.
I love you too. Does that mean we're boyfriend and girlfriend now?
What the fuck? Hell no. I've never said or done anything to make you think that you would ever be my girlfriend. I'm not ready for a fucking relationship, but like, we could still chill and shit, but we're just friends.
I mean, could she have spelled it out any better than that? I honestly think you could have summarized this entire video that you just watched up to this point into that 24-second Sarah Clate clip, and you would have gotten all the context that you needed. Everything you came for in those 24 seconds. So I'm sorry for wasting your time. My mistake. And of course, we've got a Reddit story to look at to kind of polish things up, as it also kind of just summarizes the entire video in just a few small words. So, the way men talk about women makes me completely disinterested in dating. The phase where you start hating your girlfriend. A man can cheat and still love you. We out here emotionally traumatizing these hoes. What do you bring to the table besides some box? And these are just some examples I've heard online and from male coworkers. There's so many others. Do men even like women? It doesn't fucking sound like it. I want to be with someone who likes me, likes talking to me, likes my sense of humor, likes hanging out with me. Someone who, even if we weren't together, he wasn't attracted to me, he would still want to hang out with me because he likes me as a person. I want someone who shows affection and does nice things, not because he expects something in return, but because he wants to make me happy. Is that too much to ask? I say this to my friends who date and they're all like, fat fucking chance, good luck with that. It's just sad and frustrating. Now, obviously, I can't speak for all men, never claimed that I could. And honestly, I legitimately can't, like, relate to some of this shit because, like, I don't know what it is like to think that way. To, you know, like, all these problems that are being outlined. Let's just say I really don't have firsthand experience with being like that. But I've heard it a lot from women who have experience. I mean, this person's post here said that when she brought it up to her friends, they were like, yeah, good luck finding someone who actually likes you for you, right? And nothing more, right? Nothing less. Like, that's just the truth, you know? And obviously, I'm inclined to believe that these are very, very real experiences. And I think it's unbelievably unfortunate that that's the world we live in right now, where dating has become just an absolute pain in the ass for pretty much everyone and for a wide range of different reasons. And of course, conventional men not hitting the mark that women are looking for and being completely way off, honestly, in many cases, is just another unfortunate part of that. And we'll look at one more story that also paints a very, very clear picture for us. I fucking hate Gen Z men. What I've always noticed about Gen Z men, including the younger ones, is that they're the most conservative and misogynistic demographic I've ever seen in my fucking life. I go on social media and see so many of these men say the most vile things on earth. I was on Instagram and saw this white supremacist influencer who looks like he's in his early 20s, interview people on the streets and ask the most horrendous questions ever, from hating on interracial relationships to asking others if the 19th Amendment should be repealed. That is the amendment that gave women the right to vote. Yeah, you literally have men out there being like, yeah, women shouldn't vote. Like, I already mentioned that earlier, but it's seriously a part of the bigger picture here, and it's disgusting. When I see the comments who agree with him, I check out their profiles, and at least 95% are younger millennial and Gen Z men. In my opinion, these men do even worse things than boomers and other past generations. 60% of them voted for Trump and made Jim Bro and alpha male cultures famous. And it will all get worse and worse in these upcoming years. I'm fucking terrified about it. What makes it even crazier is that this isn't just an American phenomenon. I hear insane stories come out of Canada, Australia, European countries, Latin American countries, India, South Korea, Japan, and so much more. I talk to everyone about this, and all they say is, they're just internet trolls, they're not real. Not all men are like this. And I'm honestly so tired of it because sure, some of them are trolls and rage baiters who like to make people mad on purpose, but also, let me just chime in on a comment here. Those aren't exactly desirable men either. Just saying, like, just because they're trolls and they don't allegedly mean what they're saying, I don't think you want a man baby who thinks it's fun to troll people on the internet by being a misogynistic asshole. A part of them must honestly believe the dumb shit that they're saying. So, but anyway, they say, but it's factual that many young men in real life are thinking like this nowadays. It's not some internet myth, it's real. I'm a bisexual Gen Z, so at least I have many options when it comes to dating, but I feel so bad for straight women and sapphics who have bigger attractions towards men. Good luck to all of you, for real. So that about does it for this video. I might have mentioned earlier that a common sentiment you actually see on the YouTube platform is that men are tired of dating women. And obviously, men have their own world of reasons. I mean, there's a reason that they turn to these alpha male dating guru morons, and they go and try these stupid tactics and then just make themselves look stupid a lot of the time, and then they blame women, right? You know, you try these dumb things like leading them on, doing breadcrumbs, you know, acting like you don't care, taking forever to respond because that's what these dumb idiots tell you. Like, oh, they don't want a man who actually chases women. Women actually want to chase men. That's why you need to keep being emotionally distant and never give them the affirmation that you actually care about them genuinely and want to be them, that you see them as being your whole world someday. You know, you don't want to give them that ever. If you do that, you lose. And then they believe this stupid advice, they try it, and they end up never having anything fucking work out. And then they blame women. But of course, there's obviously more to both sides of the story. But we're not here to talk about that right now. Perhaps we'll see it in another video, because honestly, this shit has gotten out of control. At this point, people are just deciding to marry AI.
As music plays in a wedding hall in Japan, 32-year-old call center operator Yurine Noguchi wipes away her tears as she reads her vows. Her groom, an AI persona displayed on a phone screen.